Picture this. It's 11 p.m. on a random Tuesday, and you're staring at your ceiling, or maybe you're scrolling through old photos on your phone. You see a picture of your ex. Suddenly, your chest tightens. You remember the inside jokes, the late-night drives, that one perfect weekend away. The explosive fights. The fact that you spent months walking on eggshells around their temper. Those memories feel distant, almost blurry. Or maybe you're thinking about high school or your early 20s. You remember it as an era of total freedom and joy, completely forgetting the crushing anxiety, the drama, and the desperate, exhausting need to fit in. You feel this profound, heavy ache in your chest. You want to go back. But here is the uncomfortable truth that is going to change how you view your own mind. The past you are craving never actually existed. Your brain is actively running a highly sophisticated evolutionary filtering system designed to rewrite your own history. And today, we are going to break down exactly why your mind is gaslighting you, why you keep wanting to return to people and places that broke you, and how you can finally stop falling for your brain's favorite and most dangerous trick. Let's start with what's actually happening in that beautiful, complicated brain of yours. Psychologists have a specific name for this phenomenon. It is called Rosy Retrospection. It is a cognitive bias that causes us to remember past events as being significantly more positive than they actually were in reality. Imagine you go on a highly anticipated vacation. While you are actually there, you are sweating, your stomach hurts from weird food, your partner is complaining about blisters from walking too much, and the hotel pool smells overwhelmingly like bleach. You literally type a note in your phone to remind yourself never to book this trip again. But ask yourself about that exact same trip 6 months later. What happens? The blisters, the stress, and the arguments completely vanish from your narrative. You only remember the stunning sunset on the last night and the laughs you shared. Researchers Mitchell and Thompson proved this in a landmark 1997 study. They tracked people anticipating a life event, like a vacation to Europe, a Thanksgiving holiday, or a bicycle trip. They recorded how people felt before, during, and after. They found that the actual lived experience was constantly interrupted by distractions, disappointments, and negative thoughts. Yet, shortly after the event ended, those same people evaluated the experience far more positively than they did when they were actually living it. Your brain essentially takes the messy, uncomfortable, raw footage of your life and heavily edits it into a cinematic highlight reel. But why? Why would your own memory lie to you? It comes down to a biological survival mechanism known as the fading affect bias, or FAB for short. Fading affect bias is the psychological reality that the emotional intensity of negative memories diminishes at a significantly faster rate than the emotional intensity of positive memories. Over time, the sharp, cutting edges of frustration, embarrassment, or heartbreak naturally dull, while feelings of joy, pride, and connection remain incredibly stable or even intensify. From an evolutionary standpoint, this is actually a brilliant piece of cognitive engineering. If you vividly remembered the exact, agonizing physical and emotional pain of every failure, every rejection, or every trauma with the exact same intensity as the day it happened, you would be paralyzed. You would never take a risk, try a new relationship, or attempt anything difficult ever again. The fading affect bias acts as a psychological buffer. It protects your mental health and helps you construct a cohesive, adaptive life narrative where you view yourself as resilient. But here's the kicker. While this mechanism is designed to keep you moving forward, in modern relationships, it becomes a devastating trap. This is exactly where we enter the territory of toxic nostalgia. Let's talk about that perfect ex again. During the relationship, there were good days, sure, but you also fought constantly about basic respect, chores, and money. You left for a very valid reason, but after the breakup, as the weeks and months pass, the fading affect bias starts doing its quiet work. The memories of the screaming matches shrink, while the memory of your shared, easy shorthand grows larger. In the addiction recovery world, there is a specific, potent term for this that explains everything: euphoric recall. Euphoric recall is the state where a person remembers a past experience in an intensely positive way, completely blocking out the negative consequences. Whether it is a toxic substance or a toxic person, the fondness you have for the past event triggers an actual chemical reaction in your brain, minimizing the pain and embellishing the pleasure. You start to genuinely believe that the relationship was better than it was. This selective memory bias creates a distorted perception of reality. It is the exact psychological glitch that convinces victims of domestic violence or emotional abuse to return to situations where they will be harmed, because they literally forget the severity of the negative experiences they endured. You are not craving that toxic person. You are craving the heavily sanitized, fictional version of them that your brain manufactured to protect you from the grief of loss. But it gets even deeper. You have to understand that your memory is not a video camera. It is a reconstruction. And your brain is an incredibly lazy editor. When it stores an experience, it doesn't save the whole file. It saves the peaks, the moments of highest emotional intensity. And it saves how the experience ended. This is known in cognitive psychology as the peak end rule. Everything else, the daily grind, the boredom, the subtle disrespect, gets left on the cutting room floor. This is why you remember your late teens and 20s with such fierce nostalgia. Researchers call the period between ages 20 and 30 the source of our most salient emotional bookmarks. It's an era filled with highly emotional firsts: first love, leaving home, first job, that become the baseline against which all future experiences are unfairly compared. But the illusion of the perfect past relies on a second, equally powerful cognitive bias operating right now in your present: declinism. Declinism is the heavy, persistent belief that the present is overwhelmingly negative and that things are only getting worse. Why do we feel this way? Because right now, in the present moment, your brain is actively scanning for threats. It is a biological survival instinct to focus on the negative things happening today: the stress at work, the bills, the relationship friction, the global news, so you can fix them and survive. But when you look backward at the past, you already survived it. You don't need a threat detection system for 2018. So your brain drops the negativity bias when looking backward, but applies it heavily when looking at today. When you compare a highly scrutinized, stressful present against a sanitized, rosy past, the past will always win. You trick yourself into believing that high school or that old relationship was a golden era, completely forgetting the deep insecurities and anxieties you were actually drowning in back then. So how do you break out of this cycle? How do you stop your own neurobiology from dragging you backward into situations you already fought so hard to escape? You don't do it by simply telling yourself to move on. You do it by hacking the mechanism itself. In cognitive behavioral therapy, there is a brilliant technique used to combat euphoric recall called playing the tape forward. Think of your mind as an old VCR player. When that wave of toxic nostalgia hits and your brain offers you the beautiful highlight reel of your ex, you hit pause. You acknowledge the craving. Then, you deliberately hit rewind. You force your brain to look at the deleted scenes. You consciously recall the full, unedited story, the promises they broke, the walking on eggshells, the mornings filled with regret, the exact physical feeling of the anxiety they caused you. You ask yourself the hard question: what am I conveniently forgetting right now? And then, you fast forward. You project the real, actual future of what happens if you send that text or go back to that environment. But human memory is fragile, so you cannot just rely on willpower in the moment. You have to externalize your memory. When you are going through a difficult transition or ending a toxic dynamic, you must keep a during, not after, log. Write down the objective facts of what is happening while it is happening. One bad thing they did, how it made you feel, and why you need to leave. Do not make it poetic. Keep it brutally honest and short. Weeks or months later, when the fading affect bias sets in and your brain tries to whisper, "It wasn't that bad," you pull the receipts. You let your past self, the one who actually stood in the fire, speak truth to your present, nostalgic self. If your memory and the written record clash, you plan your life based on the record, not the vibes. Rosy retrospection and the fading of negative emotions are not flaws. They are acts of profound mercy from your brain. They allow you to look back on a difficult, messy life and still find beauty. They allow you to sit around a table and tell warm stories about hard times. You don't have to fight the nostalgia completely. You can appreciate the warmth of a past memory without letting it blindfold you. You can miss the good parts of a person while simultaneously knowing they belong absolutely nowhere near your future. The key is realizing that nostalgia is a feeling to be experienced, not a compass to guide your decisions. Stop letting a sanitized, fictional version of your past rob you of your present. You didn't leave that relationship or that phase of your life by accident. You survived it, you learned from it, and you moved forward. Honor the version of you that had the strength to walk away by refusing to look back through rose-tinted glasses. If this hit home for you, or finally explained a loop you've been stuck in, hit subscribe. We decode the hidden psychology behind human behavior every week. See you in the next one.